question about Barca. Do you think?
Would you say something?
One second, I've got a question here.
Do you think it's still possible that Barca could have a team any day here in the MLS?
Well, I think they continue to be close partners of ours and are doing a lot of things to get close to us. This game is part of a partnership that we have with FC Barcelona. We'll continue to talk to them about what team opportunities might exist, but right now there's nothing ongoing as it relates to team investment.
For that line, time do you expect to have an agreement?
No, we don't. We're not. Just saying, we don't have any ongoing discussions with them as it relates to any team acquisition. We've got a partnership that will last for many, many years on marketing and game promotion and all sorts of other things that we can think benefit both teams. Right now, there's no discussions as it relates to team acquisition, expansion.
If Beckham leaves after this season and leaves the Galaxy, is that a negative for the league, you feel at all, as far as the perception that you had a great player here and you just
listen, I don't know that it's different when any other player decides to leave. There are lots of things that go into whether players decide to stay or whether they decide to go. I don't think anybody would expect that a player has an opportunity to compete for the English national team and compete for the World Cup, and if he's not capable of doing that based on what his coach is saying by staying here, we don't want to be the one that prevents him from playing for the World Cup. I don't think that's a fair position for David to be put into. So I don't know it'll necessarily be a negative. It'll be just part of the story. That story will be talked about for a long time.
What do you think?
Hey, what would you say about David Beckham's saying to the Sun in England that he always leave the doors open to go back to Manchester City?
I haven't heard that, so I can't comment on that.
What do you think are the chances that he'll be playing in MLS next year? Can you put a percentage on that?
I can't really put percentages on it. I'll say that after the season's over, David will sit down with his representatives in the LA Galaxy, and they'll talk about what his future plans are. I certainly hope that in some way David's back in Major League Soccer. I think it's been very positive for us, and I hope there's some way to find a way to make it work. But I can't put out percentages on it.
Can you see a time when players like Lionel Messi in his prime could be playing in MLS?
I believe so, Scott. Listen, we've got a player in his prime, the best American player probably of all time, in his prime playing in Major League Soccer. So it's got to start with that. We've got to have great American players who are playing here. In time, I think this league will have players, world-class players in their prime. You can't tell me David Beckham's not in his prime, and he's playing in Major League Soccer. He's a guy that's starting for AC Milan and is going to start for the English national team.
I wouldn't necessarily put Beckham in Messi's.
I'm not, but he's a world-class player.
Do you have an idea on a timeline on when we may see something like that? See the best players playing?
Not really, Scott.
Gentlemen, back to
I'll come back.
Mr. Garber, do you foresee any changes in the scheduling format of the MLS to pair it up with the European leagues and the leagues of the rest of the world?
Well,
summer is...
We get asked these questions, as you know, all the time, including when President Blatter was here just last week. Until we have a league where people can be interested in going to games in Toronto in January when it's 5 degrees, I don't expect that we're going to be having games played in the middle of the winter. Now, in time, I expect it's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
How about relegation?
Well, again,
a topic that FIFA...
I don't see that happening anytime soon.
FIFA has it in its statutes.
Yeah, I know. It's an important objective for them, but they have exceptions for leagues that can't manage through it, and we're one of those leagues right now. I think they'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see it happen, but I think it's going to be a long time before it does.
And just to know, that's 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
Following my has MLS managed to put its finger on why you get these incredibly fanatic crowds here and for Seattle, but you don't seem to see that in places like the Home Depot Center, where they have to market hard to AYSO teams and that sort of thing.
Well, say this, Nick. It's 2 years ago we didn't have the LA Riot Squad, and you didn't have the Galaxians like they are now either, right? So the sport is slowly building up its core, and the international following has sort of taken off with incredible speed, faster than we thought it would. This summer of soccer has attracted almost 2 million spectators. Many of those games are games that we promoted, and most of those games have been against our teams. So if we can start participating against those teams like we are now and playing somewhat respectively, then I think slowly that core fan base is going to grow, and then you'll start seeing some of that transfer over. So I don't think there's any quick switch. We're looking at this, and we don't know. There's nothing you can do today day that says if we do X, it changes, but it's certainly getting better.
You might want to count the local rivalry with the atmosphere between Chivas and the Galaxy.
We've had some great matches. Look what's going on in Seattle. That's the United States.
Right, with Seattle, the crowds are incredible, though. Do you know why they've managed to attract that segment of the population to games in Seattle, but say Chivas and the Galaxy?
I don't think there's any one reason. The perfect storm of a lot of things have worked well. At the right branding, the right team on the field, the right stadium environment, the right sort of authenticity that exists from start to finish. There was a lot of pent-up demand. There's not a lot of competition in that market, but I feel good that we're moving in the right direction in almost every one of our markets.
Following my previous question, do you even consider or think it's possible in the future that the wealthiest teams in MLS, like Galaxy, like New York, will get permission to sign more and more players, like name players from outside?
They have the rights to do that now. There's a designated player.
But more than just two, like maybe 5, 6.
I don't see that happening in the near term. Certainly not while we're sitting and discussing our collective bargaining agreement.
Commissioner Garber, are there any smaller leagues that you're looking at now to pair up with more? I know you've done some work with Indian Soccer League, etc. Any new venues that you're trying to touch, or
nothing on the horizon?
You seem to be saying that the Riot Squad is good for American soccer, the group. Now, do you support the way they treated Beckham? Or?
I don't support the way they've treated Beckham. I think that if you're a passionate fan of your team, you should support your players. They're wearing your colors. So I have a personal feeling that you should cheer for your team when they're playing against your opponent. So in this particular case, I think the Riot Squad and the Galaxians are very passionate about their team, and that's a good thing. But I think it's time that we start putting all this behind us. And if I'm a Galaxy fan, I want to get my team behind my team so they can get there. Get into the MLS Cup and win a championship game. And David Beckham's going to help them do that.
Don, where are you on the CBA negotiations?
Again, nothing that I can talk about, Mark. We're busy, we're engaged, lots of ongoing discussions, but you're not going to hear me between now and the end of the year comment on it at all.
Do you think people are getting more interested about Major League Soccer ever since Beckham is getting criticized by his fans? I'm saying
I think that there's a lot more news about the league now that there's been this controversy, and I think that news is positive.
How important is it for MLS to have a better showing in the Champions League this year?
I think it is important. I think we need to try to get the same balance that the U.S. soccer, the U.S. national team got from competing against Spain and Brazil and getting to the finals of the Confederations Cup. We win the Champions League, we get into the World Club Championship, and we beat FC Barcelona or stand toe-to-toe with them. That would be a very positive thing.
I think another side of it would be if you're competing well with the Mexican clubs, it tells the Mexican fans here, hey, this is worth watching.
Remember, the Superliga final is on Wednesday in Chicago. I certainly hope Chicago Fire win that game.
When you look at the overall ahead, like 3-4 years ahead, how important is a successful run by the national team in the World Cup for your marketing, the interest?
Anytime anything, whether it's a game like this or it's our national team or it's the Gold Cup final, to me, right, anything that raises the popularity, the awareness, and excitement about the sport is positive for us.
But my question was, how important and vital is it that they do well next year to do that?
Take care, guys. I certainly hope they do well, but I'm not going to say that if they don't, it's going to have a negative effect on Major League Soccer.
Okay.